At the mid-autumn night banquet, I was pushed into the lake from behind. My childhood sweetheart jumped into the lake to save me before the palace attendants. He was certain that with my reputation ruined, I would either have to keep company with green lanterns and ancient Buddhas, or marry him. He planned to first take the commandery princess as his wife, and then take me as a concubine. I chose to stay far from the imperial capital and accompany my maternal grandfather in his business ventures. When we met again, his eyes were red as he demanded to know why I had styled my hair in a woman's coiffure. I smoothed the palace robes I wore and looked at the commandery princess beside him. He is blind to the truth. You should recognize these palace robes. Since you see this princess, why do you not kneel? Ancient Storytime Ancient Channel. Hope you like my stories. Please like and subscribe. At the mid-autumn palace banquet, I was pushed into the lake from behind. My childhood friend, Zhao Yunting, leaped into the lake ahead of the palace servants and saved me. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, our clothes were thoroughly soaked, which was considered an intimate physical contact. For the sake of my reputation, a union between the Hai and Zhao families was the best choice. However, just 3 days ago, the emperor bestowed a marriage upon Zhao Yunting and Princess Jean, and as the legitimate daughter of the Hai family, I could absolutely never marry another man as a concubine. Otherwise, my brothers and sisters in the clan would all be looked down upon in their future marriages. Amidst the chaos, I did not know how I was sent back home. I only felt my mind go blank, as if I could already foresee my own fate. Mother sat by my bedside, sobbing softly, while father slammed the table in fury. With so many palace maids, was there not a single one who could swim? Did Zhao Yunting absolutely have to be the one to save her? Father, he meant well in saving me. A dark glint flashed through my eyes. Someone deliberately pushed me back then. If it were her, she probably didn't want me to make it ashore alive. Hearing this, Mother cried even harder, wiping her tears vigorously. Yunting and Lanner grew up together and were deeply in love. If she hadn't begged His Majesty to bestow the marriage, how could the two of you have ended up? My poor Lanner, whatever will become of you? Father snorted heavily, panting in his rage. Even though it was a marriage bestowed by His Majesty, he didn't utter a single word of refusal. He even accepted the decree with joy. Just as Mother was crying in despair, a knock sounded at the door. It was my personal maid, Qinghuan. Qinghuan handed me a letter. This was sent by the young master of the Zhao clan. He insisted I deliver it into Mrs. own hands. Father's bloodshot eyes lit up, and he hurriedly took the letter from Qinghuan's grasp. He was just about to open it when he paused, then held it out to me instead. He was hoping for the slightest turn of events to save his unfortunate daughter. After reading it, I handed the letter to Mother and Father. There was a glimmer of hope, but not much. In the letter, Zhao Yunting expressed that his feelings for me were sincere and would remain unchanging until death. He lamented the helplessness of the imperial marriage and explained that saving me was merely an act of desperation. Finally, he promised that after he married the commandery princess, he would find a way to persuade her to take me in as a co-wife. In the letter, he repeatedly emphasized that I should go to Jingye Temple to lie low for a while, and wait in peace for him to come and marry me. Mother pressed this letter to her chest, 2 lines of clear tears falling, revealing a bitter smile. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. My Lanner still has hope. I exchanged a glance with Father, unable to bear shattering Mother's illusions. Princess Jean is the beloved daughter of the Prince of Xiangyang, born in his old age, and this marriage was bestowed by His Majesty himself. If Zhao Yunting insists on taking a concubine of equal rank, the hereditary merit of the Zhao Marquisate will be ruined in his hands. I did not wish to make things difficult for Zhao Yunting, so I went to find him in secret, only to discover him drinking under the moonlight with a servant, beaming with joy. Young master, your move is truly brilliant. Have me push Miss Hai into the water, and then you rescue her. That way, you not only marry the princess to secure your position as heir, but also make Miss Hai devotedly wait for you. After all, for a woman with a ruined reputation, who would want her other than you? But young master, will the commandery princess really allow you to take a second wife? Zhao Yunting sneered twice. Of course not. He gulped down a mouthful of wine, looking thoroughly triumphant. My reputation is ruined, and after spending a few more years at Jinya Temple, I'll be old and faded, lonely and unbearable. When the time comes, I'll arrange for some people to make her suffer a bit, then I'll appear to save her from the dire straits. When that happens, even if I ask her to be a lowly concubine, she'll surely be willing and filled with tearful gratitude. It was as if I were being pushed into the water again. The sensation of suffocation returned, and the chill soaked through my blood. Every light word he spoke turned into heavy, sharp stones crashing down on me, intent on keeping me, drowning in the water, forever trapped in a place of no return. What a ruthless and selfish scheme. He must know that for a woman, reputation is as vital as life itself. If my kin do not cherish me enough, then all that awaits me is a length of white silk. A boundless sense of suffocating despair washed over me. I dug my fingers desperately into the wall, the pain of my nails breaking only barely allowing me to hold onto a shred of consciousness. Dark, ashen clouds obscured the crescent moon. As the sky grew dim, the cold glint of a blade flashed before my eyes. Zhao Yunting struck 3 times in succession, stabbing the servant to death. He died with his eyes wide open. I instinctively ducked behind the wall, closed my eyes, and slowly adjusted my breathing. When I opened my eyes again, blazing fire swept through the dry grass. That fire seemed to be blood red. I hid nothing and told my parents the whole story. Regrettably, there was no evidence. Even if the matter were taken to the court of judicial review, it would be dismissed as fabricated out of thin air and sheer nonsense. With eyes swollen from weeping, Mother steeled herself. I will go and beg your grandmother. Even if I have to kneel before her until I die, I will make her take you in. L'honneur, even without wealth and status, you should still be free and unfettered. Aside from Mother, Grandmother had no other kin in this world, so there was no need to fear for the reputation, careers, or marriages of any relatives. Yet because Mother insisted on marrying Father, the two of them had once sworn an oath to sever all ties and never speak again. On the day Zhao Yunting presented the betrothal gifts to the commandery princess, Mother took me out of the city, to the outside world. Say only that I am critically ill and have gone to Jiangnan to seek medical treatment. I heard that after Zhao Yunting presented the betrothal gifts, he rushed straight to my house, begging to see me. Father would rather bear the infamy of biting the hand that feeds you than beat and scold Zhao Yunting out of the house. When we arrived in Jiangnan, Mother prepared me to kneel on my knees for 7 days and 7 nights. But after just 1 day and night of rain, Grandmother softened her heart. She agreed to take me in, but with one condition. She wanted me to change my surname to hers, to remain in the Zhao family for the rest of my life, to take in a husband, and never to marry out. Mother agreed without a second thought. Nothing matters more to me than my freedom and my life. Grandmother cast a sidelong glance at Mother, her smile laced with mockery. You need not consult with your husband? What if he does not agree? Will you have to change it back? Mother knelt and kowtowed. Mother, I have failed your teachings and violated the rule that daughters of the Chow family do not marry outside. Only now that I have become a mother do I understand your hardships. Mother kowtowed heavily again, the delicate skin on her forehead stained with sand and slightly red. She said, as long as my son is safe, even if it costs my life, it is worth it. Grandmother's chest heaved, and her eyes gradually turned red. I changed my name from Heguanlin to Chaoguanlin and stayed in Rong City. Grandmother sent me to the plantation, the livestock farm, the dye house, the tailor shop, the docks. I was diligent, willing to work and learn, and obedient. From a pampered young lady, I came to be familiar with the ins and outs of every stage. Silkworm rearing and silk reeling, weaving and dyeing, tailoring, and export shipping, until the year-end audit, when I uncovered several issues. The managers ganged up to pressure me, intending to go on strike. I dared not make a decision on this matter myself, so I had no choice but to send someone to ask Grandmother for instructions. Grandmother stepped forward personally to back me up. Guanlan, you are the sole heir of the Chow family. In the future, For trivial matters like dismissing a shopkeeper, there is no need to consult me. Just make the decision yourself. I dealt with all the problematic shopkeepers with thunderous force, and even took the most egregious ones to court. Then, at the end of the year, I bestowed generous year-end bonuses and gifts upon the diligent shopkeepers. Through a combination of carrot and stick, they finally accepted me as their young master. The first New Year I spent in Rongqing was unlike any winter in the capital. There was no biting wind sweeping across snow-covered ground. Instead, mountain flowers remained in full bloom and the trees stayed green, a truly warm winter. Yet, keeping the New Year's vigil with only my grandmother for company felt undeniably lonely. To my surprise, when the firecrackers sounded, father, mother, and my elder brother, who had just been granted leave from the border, burst through the door like three nian beasts, covered in the dust of their long journey. Grandmother feigned displeasure, but in the end, she did not turn them away. She said, "It's the new year. Let it be. Let it be." They stared hard at me. My brother said with concern, "Lawner has gotten darker." Father said with concern, "Lawner has gotten thinner." Mother's heart ached. Lawner looked so haggard. Her words stuck in her throat. Though I had grown dark and thin, my gaze was even more resolute, brighter, and full of spirit and vitality. Grandmother kept stealing glances at mother, and at my brother, who bore a 7-part resemblance to her. Hearing this, she feigned anger. "Are you blaming me for raising Lawner poorly?" My brother bounced up and came over to massage her shoulders. Grandmother raised Lawner to be like a vigorous black goat on the mountain, like a vigorous big black fish in the water. Like, brother. The severely drawn-out tail note expressed my dissatisfaction. My brother chuckled. "I'm praising you. Being healthy is great. I just hope you stay like this, healthy and safe. Everything else is of no consequence." Amidst the exploding fireworks, my eyes were reflected a burning red. Scorching hot. For over half a year, I had been able to hold back all the grievances and hardships by looking up at the sky, but now they fell like broken pearls. One drop fell, and it was hard to stop. It rolled into the soil amidst the brilliant sky. It is love that nourishes my vigorous growth. After the new year, my grandmother taught me the ways of business, guiding me hand in hand. It was only at this moment that I realized, aside from the cloth and garment business, the Zhao family actually had businesses in soap, lip balm, hand cream, fertilizer, spices, soft paper, taverns, tea houses, and more. It completely covered every aspect of clothing, food, housing, transportation, daily necessities, and farming. In May, she asked me to set sail with a merchant ship to meet a major client. Just as Qinghuan and I were tinkering with the telescope my grandmother had made, I saw a corpse floating on the sea. Under my grandmother's influence, I was not superstitious about such things. Thinking that he should rest in peace, I ordered someone to haul him up. Who would have guessed that he was still alive? He said his name was Mu Linen, and he wanted me to take him back to the imperial capital, and was willing to reward me with more money than the value of my 8 ships' cargo. I refused. I cannot break my promise to the cargo owner. He is also a reasonable man, and even praised me for being able to make such a big business thrive at such a young age. Life on board is incredibly dull, so I play chess with myself. He suddenly sat down opposite me and placed a piece to continue my game. Thus, we played for a day and a night, until Qinghuan refused to warm my wine and food any longer, and only stopped when she dragged me into the cabin. I saw a storybook titled Love and Hate, about a heroine who falls into the water and is rescued by the male lead. Knowing he has a beloved and cannot marry her, she prepares to hang herself to preserve her chastity, but the male lead comes to her rescue out of a sense of duty and marries her. On the day of their wedding, the man's beloved one, in her grief, jumped into the river. From then on, the male and female leads were caught in an endless tug-of-war between love and hate. In a fit of anger, I threw the book, and it landed right at Mu Linen's feet. He handed me the rabbit lantern he had made, then picked up the storybook and began to read. I listlessly spun the rabbit lantern, watching the bright, warm yellow light, Yet my heart felt heavy and weighed down, far from at ease. Even though the ways of the world are like this, tradition is like this, and everyone's consensus is like this, I still feel it's wrong. I saw Mu Linen suddenly throw the sketchbook out as if it were a hot potato, letting out a disgusted "you" and passing judgment. As expected, it's not a good book. I responded indifferently. The sea breeze blew past, carrying a salty, fishy, and sticky scent, making me feel even worse. He held down my spinning rabbit lantern and asked earnestly, "You also feel it's wrong, don't you?" I looked up in confusion. What? His voice was as soft as the cool breeze brushing past the face on a summer night. That mere physical contact forces two women to seek death, makes two people without feelings become a resentful couple, and separates two who love each other. You also feel it's wrong, don't you? The light of the rabbit lantern reflected in my eyes, and I looked at him, who was also bathed in that light. Then what do you think should be done? He tapped his finger on the table. Clothes are meant to cover the body. Since we are wearing clothes, why call it physical intimacy? It was merely the most ordinary physical contact between two people in a moment of urgency. It should never have been burdened with such intimidating notions as reputation, chastity, or righteousness. His voice drifted away on the sea breeze. Express gratitude for the kindness, then let the man marry and the woman wed. With no further entanglement or binding ties, that is the right course. In that moment, my mind went blank, yet I was not lost. On the contrary, it was as if a tangled mess had been set ablaze and burned to ash, leaving behind incomparable clarity. I nodded in agreement, stood up, and walked toward that book. Aiming with the tip of my toe, I exerted force and kicked. It turned out that when the book fell into the water, the sound was so soft. I turned back, and we looked at each other and smiled. He gave me a thumbs up, those dark eyes seeming to say, "Just as I thought, you feel the same way." When we stopped in a small county town to resupply, he insisted on taking me to eat the locally famous 8-treasure duck. When it was time to pay, the owner looked at him with a grin. He wasn't the least bit embarrassed, simply tilting his chin to signal the owner to look to me. I took out the silver, and the owner's eyes smiled into crescents. As he turned away, he left behind a light remark. "So he's henpecked." I pulled out some broken silver and handed it to him. "Take this silver, buy whatever you want." Mu Linen didn't take it. "I just want to be a henpecked husband." 2 jars of osmanthus wine were enough for Mu Linen and me to sit at the bow of the boat all night. No one dared to gulp it down, because with every sip, there was one less. Emboldened by the alcohol, he said I was like a young deer in the forest, clear and lively, like an eagle spreading its wings, spirited and dashing, like a wolf on the mountain top, resolute and steadfast. He also said that I appear to be made of water, but inside, I am solid as rock. Gazing at the faint fishing lights in the distance, I said, "I like rock." He followed my gaze and said that he also liked the rock. We were far apart, and it would be hard to meet again in the future. Unexpectedly, I felt reluctant to part. On a June afternoon, a muggy heavy rain began to fall. He waved to me from the shore, calling out again and again, "Bon voyage!" I waved at him from the boat. "Are you stupid, just standing there in the rain? Hurry up and take shelter in the pavilion." He cupped his hands around his mouth into a megaphone shape and shouted recklessly over the sound of the pouring rain, "If I go into the pavilion, I won't be able to see you." The rain was loud, but I still heard him. Qinghuan dried my hair while scolding me for being foolish. "You're just the same. You can't even see the shore, yet you still stand there foolishly in the rain." I spun the rabbit lantern. 1,000 cups are too few when drinking with a kindred spirit. He and I, we get along. On the Mid-Autumn Festival, Qinghuan and I went out to view the flower lanterns. Amidst the bustling crowd, the two of us were separated. A fat man suddenly grabbed my hand. "You wretched woman. I've been looking for you for ages. Instead of nursing the child at home, you're out here gallivanting? Just wait until I beat you to death." Before I could speak, his solid, thick palm came flying at me along with a foul-smelling breath. Just as I thought I was going to be knocked senseless by his slap, a lean but powerful hand intercepted him, twisting and flinging him so that the fat man crashed into the lampstand nearby. Struck by his bulk, the lampstand toppled over with a clatter. He propped himself up and stood. "Who are you? What business is it of yours how I discipline my own woman?" The man was tall and slender, wearing a fox mask. His attire was made of exquisite fabric with patterns that exuded nobility, and a long jade pendant hung at his waist. At a glance, it was clear he was not someone to be trifled with. His cold eyes narrowed slightly as he looked down at the fat man, as if gazing at trash. With a sudden movement, he nimbly snapped a bamboo stalk and, in just a few swift moves, knocked the fat man, who had just managed to get up, back to the ground. His voice was cold, yet familiar. "Who did you say she is to you?" The fatty was undeterred. "My woman." The man showed no mercy, ignoring the fatty's wailing and begging for mercy as he struck him dozens, perhaps even 100, times in succession. It was not until the fatty was lying prostrate on the ground, unable to get up, that he asked again, "Answer properly, or I'll take your life." The fatty cried miserably, wailing even louder than the lantern vendor beside him. "I don't know her. I don't know her. I saw she was dressed like no ordinary person. Figured she must be some young lady, and with no servants around, I thought I'd force myself on her and then go to her house to wangle my way into becoming the master." Just then, some constables came over to investigate, and they promptly hauled away the fat man, who was missing a hand and a foot and had a swollen face. Amidst the jeering, only the lantern seller pursed his lips, until a large silver ingot flew into his hand. "Don't be disheartened. I'll compensate you," said the fox mask. "Today is a good day. I remember that voice, so I call out to him. Moo Linen." He turns his head, removes his mask, and smiles brighter than the festive lanterns. "Hey, Chow Guanlan." He says he has come to propose marriage. Grandmother refuses to agree unless he becomes a matrilocal son-in-law. The Mu family in Linen also has an ancestral rule forbidding him from becoming a matrilocal son-in-law. I might have been a bit of a traitor to my own side. I told him, just kneel for a while, and grandmother might soften her heart. But after kneeling outside the door for only a few hours, he suddenly vanished. Grandmother snorted coldly. "He is not worthy of you. In a few years, when you are older, grandmother will find you a well-behaved matrilocal son-in-law." Grandmother believed that women nowadays marry too early. After marriage, bearing children, managing the household, serving their mothers-in-law, all these burdens weigh upon them, making it easy for them to die young. When we met again, Mu Linen was bruised and swollen, limping, and 10 boats of betrothal gifts were docked at my family's pier. He said that he still had to marry me. After marriage, he could live at my house, listen to me, and hold me in the highest regard, but he could not become a live-in son-in-law. His grandmother still refused to agree, telling him that if he didn't marry into the family, he should get lost. Mu Linen refused to leave. He wouldn't leave, even if it meant death. He truly couldn't bear the secret and absurd thoughts in his mind. He wanted to please her, tear her apart, and swallow her whole. And he also hoped to be pleased by her, torn apart by her, and swallowed whole by her. By day, he was constantly on my mind. By night, he filled my dreams with endless spring. Kissing him, hugging him, hitting him, scolding him, saying I loved him, it was all for Zhao Guanlan. He realized he was seriously ill, and Zhao Guanlan was the only cure. He knelt again and again, until the 3rd day, when he finally passed out. I naturally dragged him inside and called for a doctor, only to discover fresh wounds layered over old ones. The doctor frowned deeply, his brow furrowed like a small mountain. He has suffered several vicious beatings. This foot was likely injured in a fall and hasn't healed yet, and now he's strained the tendons and bones again. The doctor sighed deeply. If he keeps pushing himself like this, he'll be crippled sooner or later. My grandmother asked for my opinion. I looked at Mu Linen, who was trying his best to smile at me despite the doctor's prediction that he would be crippled sooner or later, and knelt on the ground. "Grandmother, I want the Chow family estate. And I want him too." I saw my grandmother's hands trembling slightly. "If one day he asks you to return to your hometown with him to settle down, and to be confined to the inner quarters, serving your husband and raising children for him?" My gaze was firm as I kowtowed heavily. Then the fate of husband and wife would be at an end, and we would each find our own joy. Grandmother remained silent for a long time, her gaze drifting into the distance toward the calligraphy and paintings from my mother's childhood, as if piercing through them to drift to the end of time. My head remained pressed against the floor, while Mu Linen also rolled off the bed with a loud splat. He arched his body with difficulty, like a shrimp, and imitated me, kneeling with his head touching the ground. Grandmother's voice pierced through the barrier of time, carrying the hoarseness of old age. "Mu Linen, if you were asked to sign a prenuptial agreement with Guanlan, clearly separating your respective family assets, so that regardless of whether you later divorce or repudiate your wife, you cannot take a single cent of the Zhao family's property, would you be willing?" Mu Linen's voice was loud and clear. "I am willing." He was not only willing. He said that the betrothal gifts were mine once given, and rightfully should be included in that prenuptial agreement as my personal property. He was very sensible, and grandmother was so satisfied that she didn't even notify our parents. Hastily arranging our wedding, mother sent dozens of letters one after another, cursing up a storm. At the end of each, she told me not to mention it to grandmother, worried that grandmother would get angry and harm her health. I shook my head. All that scolding for nothing. Mu Linen helped me pack the letters one by one. It wasn't a scolding in vain. She's feeling much better now. In December, several groups of people came to Mu Linen's house, using a mix of coaxing and threats to force him to bring his new wife home for his mother's birthday celebration. From those 10 boatloads of extravagant betrothal gifts, one could tell that his family was likely a wealthy and noble clan, and the people looking for him seemed ready to drag him back by force if he refused. Thinking that I should meet his family, and also having not seen my father and mother for a long time, I obtained my grandmother's consent and accompanied him back to this land that I both love and loathe. I just didn't expect that upon arriving at the gates of the imperial city, there would be such a grand welcoming lineup. Several ministers in red robes, along with 2 great generals, were all kneeling at the city gate to welcome Mu Linen. My mind went a bit blank. "They called you 9th Prince?" He guiltily glanced at me, lips pressed tight, then rubbed against me aggrievedly, putting on the pitiful look he always used after getting into trouble. Every time I see him like this, I just want to kiss him. Once I kiss him, I'm not angry anymore. His lips drew closer and closer. "Madam, I know I shouldn't have deceived you. You can beat me or scold me. It's all fine. My status doesn't affect us." But now, I felt my mind was in a jumble. Enough. I need to calm down. I drove him off the carriage, only realizing belatedly that with my current identity, I should have been the one to get off. But he didn't dare to get angry. He simply arranged for someone to escort me back to the high residence. I told my parents what had happened, and their faces were clouded with worry. Mother was concerned. "Regarding the matter between you and Zhao Yunting, does he not know about it? If he finds out, will he?" Father sighed. "Keep this matter under wraps for now. Do not speak of it to outsiders. Find an opportunity to tell the 9th Prince and see what his attitude is. It is not as if our family is desperate to cling to him. If he cares about his reputation, then let it be a happy union for both man and woman. My close friend is now the owner of the largest wine house in the imperial city. Hearing that I had returned and was having a tiff with my husband, she suggested taking me out to have some fun. Seeing me wearing my hair in a married woman's bun, she exclaimed, "It's in the way," and then helped me redo my hair into an unmarried maiden's bun. I thought she was going to take me to her tavern to get thoroughly drunk, but unexpectedly, she led me into the green lane. I wanted to pull back. I am a married woman. Is this appropriate? Amidst the elegant music of silk and bamboo, Kong Huilan leaned close to my ear and giggled. "What's inappropriate? Who knows how many noble ladies and madams are nestled on the soft couches inside. Today, I'll take you to have some fun and make you forget that wretched man. To be honest, the men here don't compare to Mu Linen in looks, physique, or conversation, but they have the advantage of speaking sweetly and knowing how to flatter. Kong Huilan earnestly instructed, we independent women can't hang ourselves on a single tree. Bring home an obedient live-in son-in-law, and keep a few charming and handsome lovers on the side. Wouldn't that be delightful? After a few drinks, my courage grew, and I began to pour out my grievances to her, crying about how Mu Linen had deceived me. Kong Huilan embraced a companion on either side, her posture as relaxed as that of a greasy, balding old man seasoned in the ways of the flesh. So what exactly did he deceive you about? I downed a pot of wine in one go. He concealed his true identity. So, what is his true identity? A scantily clad man leaned in close, took the empty wine pot from my hand, placed a full one in it, and took the opportunity to scratch my palm. I was stunned by his touch and hurriedly withdrew my hand, softly uttering 3 words. The 9th prince. The movements of everyone present were instantly frozen. I thought it was because of these 3 words, but in reality, a chill ran down my spine. Kong Huilan swallowed a mouthful of wine, looked behind me, her gaze clearing a few degrees, revealing an expression that looked as if she wanted to cry but didn't. Then you're in trouble. Following her gaze, I looked back. Mu Linen was frowning, red-eyed, lips pursed, and his face cold, as if I had committed some heinous crime. It was quite scary. The young attendant who had been tickling my palm was so terrified by his cold and imposing aura that he fell to the ground, daring not to look up. The madam scrambled to the doorway on her hands and knees, then hurriedly knelt at Mu Linen's feet. Your Highness, the 9th prince, we are honored by your presence. Mu Linen shot me a vicious glare, the anger in his eyes blazing like fire. What were you two just doing? I tilted my head, emboldened by the alcohol, and glared back. It's none of your business what I do. I've already called off the MMPH. The words letter of divorce were stuck in Kong Huilan's throat. She gritted her teeth and cursed in a low voice by my ear. Ancestor, pick a place with fewer people before you speak. With so many people here to be buried with you, doesn't that give you the creeps? When it came to royal matters, hearing even a little more could easily cost one their head. She hadn't enjoyed the good life enough yet and didn't want to be buried with the dead. Mu Linen walked toward me, and everyone instinctively stepped back. I thought his furious look meant he was coming to beat me up, and I wanted to retreat, but he grabbed my wrist. My waist tightened as he swept me up into his arms. Being thrown into the sedan chair, I was 9/10 sober, but I chose to continue playing dumb, leaning to one side to pretend to sleep. He gripped my wrist tightly, pulling me onto his right thigh, then clamped me in place with his left leg. His strength was immense. Locked in his embrace, I couldn't move a muscle. My chin was wrenched around, forcing me to look him in the eye, but his gaze was dark and terrifying, so I closed my eyes like an ostrich burying its head in the sand. The next second, a kiss filled with vengeance and punishment descended upon me. I immediately widened my eyes, wanting to push him away, but I couldn't move him at all. He kissed me with brute force, as if he intended to take my life, not giving me the slightest chance to catch my breath. I turned my head aside, but he forced me back, pinning down my shoulders and the back of my head, kissing me even more fiercely and forcefully. He's murdering his own wife. I tumbled to the ground trying to escape, but he immediately grabbed my ankle, pinned me beneath him, and kissed me relentlessly. The street cries, the sound of carriage wheels grinding against the ground, all of it vanished. Of my 5 senses, only one remained. The world seemed a blank void, save for him and me. It was not until the taste of blood filled his mouth, and not until he was exhausted and the corners of his lips throbbed with pain, that he finally propped himself up, as if having just finished a protracted war. His eyes were even redder. He ran his thumb over the lip I had bitten, then rubbed his blood-stained pad forcefully against my lips before slowly speaking. His voice choked. Are you awake now? Having witnessed the formidable side of this man, who was always gentle as jade and easy to talk to. And under his paranoid gaze, as if he were about to devour me on the spot, I immediately chose to overcome hardness with softness. I pursed my lips and softened my tone. I'm not feeling well. The carriage jolted from time to time, and it was quite painful. He still cherished me. After all, he helped me sit up in the carriage, while he himself knelt at my feet. It was clearly I who was looking down at him from above, but the moment he raised his eyes, it sent goosebumps all over my body. Was all his tenderness and consideration towards me in the past just an act? He took my hand in one of his, and with the other, he stroked my face, tucking the stray hair by my temple behind my ear. His voice was soft, yet it carried an overwhelming sense of oppression. Lawner, it was wrong of me to deceive you. But you going to a place like Green Alley, nearly causing a grave mistake, that was your wrong. Writing a letter of divorce without listening to my explanation, that was also your wrong. I deceived you because I felt that status didn't matter. I can forego being the 9th Prince of Hongwa, asking only to be your husband. Once the Empress Dowager's birthday celebration is over, we will return to Rome City and continue our quiet life together. As for the divorce, his gaze trembled, like a stone cast into a bottomless black pool, and he emphasized his tone. Chao Guanlan, listen to me well. It is impossible for us to divorce in this lifetime. If you insist, then we shall be buried together. I was covered in goosebumps. He was threatening me. He continued, you're still young and don't know any better. I can forgive you once for being led to that kind of place out of curiosity. But if there's a next time, he dragged out his tone, his hands stroking my thighs, his eyes filled with a crazed possessiveness. I will break the legs of your friends and everyone in Green Lane. Every single one of them. I secretly let out a breath. Better you than me. At least they didn't break my legs. I still didn't agree to his request to stay at the prince's manor. There is still a hurdle between us, my less than stellar reputation. The imperial family values reputation above all else. Nor did I let him stay overnight at the high manor. I ignored my parents' objections and drove him away. No sooner had he been sent away than Mother wiped the fawning smile from her face. The prince says the corner of his lip was bitten by a stray cat? I find that suspicious. Swollen like that, he must have been womanizing and got bitten by some woman. Mother's gaze gradually shifted to me. Seeing my dark expression, she stopped mid-sentence. Maybe it really was bitten by a cat. A cat jumping up, pouncing, and biting. I sprawled lazily on the chair, feeling useless. I bit him. After a deathly silence, father and mother beamed with joy, chatting as they walked out of the room. Her mother nodded with satisfaction. This 9th prince seems quite good. He doesn't have much of a temper. Indeed, he is good. Look at the gifts he sent. Didn't he put his heart into every one of them? He even knows about your headaches. Her mother grew even more excited. And there's desire. When he looks at Lawner, there's a man's desire for a woman in his eyes. Just as her parents had walked away, Kong Huilan crept in through the dark. Sister, you weren't beaten to death, were you? I tossed air at her, and she caught it and held it under my nose. Quick, inhale, it'll keep you going. She sat down beside me, looking carefree. Back then, the way he looked, it was as if he were going to take you right there and then. Just like what I thought when that little gigolo, who'd once said he'd give me his heart, willingly let himself be redeemed. I just wanted to ravage him into a wreck and make him cry his heart out at my feet. She suddenly snapped her fingers. Come to think of it, that gigolo looked 4 or 5 parts like your lord, quite handsome indeed. I glared at her. She didn't care and continued. Prince 9 searched Green Alley, saying he suspected there were illicit dealings inside? Heh, it's laughable. It was never exactly proper to begin with. Men visit the Red Tower. Women visit Green Alley. Isn't that normal? He's just petty, like a resentful wife. You came here just to tell me this? I rested my chin on my hand, struggling to lift my eyelids to look at her. I just came to check on you because I was afraid you'd get beaten to death. By the way, she shrank back a little and continued, there's a ghost haunting the east wall of your place, just outside your courtyard. I heard him crying miserably, "Wee wee," saying something like damn it, damn it. After thinking for a moment, she added with emphasis, "And it's a male ghost." My hand paused, and I thought of the servant boy who had been burned to death. How has Zhao Yenting been doing this past year? Crash! A vase fell and shattered by the outer wall. Kong Huilan stood stock still, her eyes wide. "I told you there's a ghost." Qing Huan had already drifted over. "Who? Don't run." Kong Huilan darted out after her. "Qing Huan, are you crazy? That's a ghost. You're not supposed to chase them." Qing Huan was held back by her, frowning in thought. Why does his silhouette look so much like the master? I looked up, but there was no longer any trace of anyone. It couldn't be him. He doesn't know martial arts. With walls this high, he couldn't climb in. Snap, the sound of tiles being crushed, followed immediately by the sound of wee wee fading into the distance. Kong Huilan hugged Qing Huan. "Sister, I'm scared. I told you it was haunted." Qing Huan threw down the broom in her hand and slapped her hand away in anger. "I think you're just trying to take advantage of me." "What ghost?" "He has a shadow." Mu Linen came early in the morning to take me to the palace to see his mother. Seeing him walking with one step light and one step heavy, I asked, "Why are you limping? How dare you speak like that?" My mom delivered a sudden sharp knock to my head, and I nearly fell over, but was fortunately caught by Mu Linen. It was him, however, who twisted his ankle again. My parents wailed around him as if the sky had fallen, yet he said calmly that it was nothing, only to grimace in pain the moment he got into the carriage. "Madam, quickly help me rub it. It hurts your husband to death." He lifted his foot onto the cushion, his misty eyes looking at me like a child eagerly begging for candy. I deliberately provoked him. "Weren't you pretty domineering yesterday? You even scared me." He stared intently at me, revealing a barbed smile. "As long as you don't ask for a divorce or go looking for other men, I'll do anything you ask. I can satisfy you." Cough, cough. "I'll just give you a massage." I gently pressed his feet, recalling the storybooks I had read. Love between mismatched families never ends well. The closer we got to the palace gates, the more apprehensive I felt. Mu Linen gave my hand a squeeze. "Rest assured, I've taken care of everything." Taken care of everything? Taken care of whom? Anyway, it certainly couldn't be the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager sat in the seat of honor, her tone rising, commanding respect without anger. "Are you the woman for whom Linen was willing to sever ties with me to marry?" I abruptly raised my eyes. "Sever ties? Are we playing this big?" I glanced sideways at Mu Linen. He looked calm and indifferent. Presumably, it was merely the means of a willful child threatening their closest kin and beloved. Mu Linen taught me on the carriage that if I didn't know how to reply, I should just let him reply. But I never expected him to say something so shocking. "I only brought her because you insisted on seeing her. Isn't that question of yours boring?" The Empress Dowager glared at him fiercely. "TSK, you brat. Don't interrupt when I'm talking to my daughter-in-law." The Empress Dowager looked at me again. Indeed, she is a fine woman, beautiful, intelligent, virtuous, and possessing both courage and wit. Huh? The public opinion shifted so fast that I couldn't quite keep up. Mu Linen, however, caught on immediately, and he said with great pride, "Naturally, for this is the person I have chosen to spend my life with." The Empress Dowager, who did not care for Mu Linen's sharp tongue, brushed him aside and took me to one side to talk. She was curious about how I had spotted the shopkeeper's double set of books, asked me how I had led the caravan to sea and where I had gone and what adventures I had had, and praised me for my concern for the country and the people and for helping stabilize the rice price in Rong City. It turned out that everything about me, every single detail, had been written to the Empress Dowager in Mu Linen's family letters. The Empress Dowager patted my hand kindly. "His standards are high, and he is arrogant. None of the women chosen for him ever caught his eye. I thought he would end up alone. Yet he took a fancy to you. That is a good thing. I told him to marry you and make you his princess. But he wrote back, making a fuss about wanting to be a matrilocal husband. It made me so angry that I immediately had someone bring him back by force and beat him until he couldn't get out of bed. But who would have guessed? As soon as he recovered a little, he said that even if he had to crawl, he would crawl to Rome City. Even locked up by me, he's still staging a hunger strike and refusing to take his medicine. He's lost a lot of weight, is unshaven, and looks completely dazed. I'm truly afraid I might end up letting him die. As the Empress Dowager spoke, a look of heartache unconsciously appeared on her face. In the end, I threatened him that if he wanted to marry into his wife's family, I would sever our mother-son relationship. And he actually agreed. Her ladyship the Empress Dowager still grinds her teeth in hatred whenever she speaks of this matter. My heart trembled as I looked at Mulinin, recalling how he had returned covered in bruises and limping after his inexplicable disappearance, and a wave of heartache and bitterness surged through me. The sweetness that rose in an instant mingled with the fear of potential loss. I took a sip of the tea in my hand. It was bittersweet. The Empress Dowager continued, learning that this wretch had infuriated me to the point of ruining my health. The Emperor beat him again, with new injuries piling on old ones. Who suffers the pain but me? His mother? In the end, I had no choice but to let him have his way, thinking that I would just pretend I never had this son. As long as he is healthy and happy, that is all that matters. Fortunately, he met you. A letter home every half-month has never been missed. You are very good. And you have raised him well. He has become sensible. It seems he hasn't become much more sensible, though. At this point, the Empress Dowager glanced at him helplessly, yet her eyes were full of affection. Mulinin was still grinning there. What is it? The Empress Dowager scolded him softly. Why haven't you scrammed yet? Mulinin said with righteous indignation. Return my wife to me, and I'll scram right away. Watching the two bicker, I finally realized who Mulinin got his talkativeness from. I had thought the imperial family was noble, dignified, strict with rules, and solemn. It turns out they can also be as harmonious and full of laughter as an ordinary family. After finishing a meal with the Empress Dowager in the palace, Mulinin wanted to coax me back to the prince's manor again, but with secrets weighing on my heart. The more attentive and kind he was to me, the more anxious, irritable, and afraid I became. I feared that when the truth finally came out, I would once again become that stray dog, slinking out of the imperial city in disgrace. He must have seen that something was on my mind, for then he proceeded to package himself up and deliver himself right to the high household. But I had just finished dressing up and was preparing to go out with Kong Huilan to relieve some of my pent-up emotions. He hugged me, gently nibbled on my ear, his voice trembling slightly. My lady, you will come back tonight, won't you? Although puzzled, I nodded. Surely I wouldn't be staying the night. He cupped my face, his gaze deeper than the night itself. Though he was smiling, it was tinged with an uneasy gloom. Then I will wait for you at home. Come back early. I'll keep the light on for you. For no reason, my heart gave a jolt, and I nodded blankly. Walking out of the courtyard, the gaze behind me was too intense, and I couldn't help but look back. Sure enough, he stood at the door like a husband-gazing stone, watching me infatuatedly. The nightlife of the bustling pleasure district had just begun, with colorful lights, clinking glasses, and singing and dancing in full swing. I sat in the Tian VIP viewing room, while Kong Huilan showed off her domain and comforted me at the same time. Prince Ninth is not one to follow the rules. Otherwise, why would he give up his status, glory, and wealth to run to Rome City and become a matrilocal son-in-law for you? He is not a matrilocal son-in-law. I frowned, puzzled. The problem is not whether he cares, but whether the imperial family cares. Kong Huilan lightly uttered a sentence. The imperial family certainly cares, but they cannot force the two of you to divorce. Can they? Cough. Cough cough. Cough 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 cough. The guest on the left was coughing so hard his throat was about to burst. Kong Huilan, you cut corners. The soundproofing is so poor. Kong Huilan crossed her legs. This is my place for watching dances and listening to music. The soundproofing is good. Do you still want to listen to the songs? As I drank, I thought of Zhao Yunting, and the more I thought, the more I hated him. If it weren't for my grandmother taking me in, I would either be chanting prayers before dim lamps in ancient Buddhas, or be a resentful spirit in hell. Speak of the devil, and he appears. A rough, rasping laugh came from the right. Brother Yunting, I heard someone saw your childhood sweetheart, Hai Guanlan, a few days ago. Hai Guanlan is back. It was Zhao Yunting's voice, ghostly as ever. He seemed overjoyed. Are you sure? It wasn't something I saw with my own eyes. So how can I be certain? The man seemed half drunk, speaking in a loud voice that I could hear perfectly clearly from here. Brother Yunting, you aren't still thinking about her, are you? The commandery princess will never let you take a concubine, so give up that hope. Zhao Yunting gave a light laugh. Then I won't take a concubine. I'll keep her outside as a secret lover. Let her bear me a son or daughter to fulfill my youthful dream, and that will be enough. Would Hai Guanlan be willing to be your secret lover? Hey, you're thinking too highly of yourself. Besides, the Hai family is a respectable lineage. They would never let her bring shame upon the family. Zhao Yunting gave a light snort. Full of confidence, she fell into the water and was saved by me. With the debt of saving her life, coupled with the fact that we have already been intimate, her reputation is completely ruined. Aside from marrying me, who else would want her? I am certain that her parents, brothers, and relatives are all kind-hearted people who couldn't bear to send her a length of white silk right now, let alone making her my outer wife. Even if I asked her to be my lowly concubine, she would be more than will. By the time Kong Huilan and I stood at the door of the compartment holding the wine bottle, a fight had already broken out inside. To be precise, it was Mu Linen beating up Zhao Yunting and a few of his friends single-handedly. Kong Huilan covered her mouth in surprise. Didn't you say he didn't know martial arts and couldn't even climb a wall? I was shocked too. I didn't know. I really didn't know. Every time he struck the fatty, his blows landed solidly on flesh, ordinary but heavy and forceful. I had always assumed that he could easily subdue me because of the sheer difference in strength between men and women, and because my body went soft and powerless when I was aroused. Now I realize that this guy can take on 5 burly men single-handedly and still have the upper hand. Zhao Yunting was beaten half to death. Worried that he might actually be killed, I grabbed Mu Linen. He looked like an enraged bull, snorting angrily through his nostrils. It was kind of cute, though Zhao Yunting was like a dead dog. His eyes lit up when he saw me, and he struggled with his last breath. Guanlan, it really is you. His tone was affectionate, filled with deep longing. He forced a smile, struggling to raise his hand and reach toward me, and began to cough violently in his agitation. Guanlan, I've finally found you. Mu Linen stomped on his outstretched hand. Go find your mom. Oh no. He's picked up his grandmother's catchphrase. Zhao Yunting and the others wailed that they would report the matter to the authorities. Mu Linen merely waved his sleeve, and naturally someone came to handle the aftermath. In the carriage, after an eerie silence, we both spoke at the same time. I said, you heard it just now too, didn't you? I fell into the water, and he was the one who saved me. Many people saw it at the time. He asked, he saved your life. Do you still love him and think of him? Before my brain could even process the question, my mouth had already replied. Love my ass. All right, I've picked up my grandmother's catchphrase too. Huddled under the covers, the two of us finally had it out. After listening to the history of bad blood between Zhao Yunting and me, Mu Linen let out a long sigh. You have no idea. The very day after I returned to the capital, I received a letter stating that Zhao Yunting was your childhood sweetheart and that he had saved you. I was scared to death back then, childhood sweetheart plus life-saving grace. He bolted upright, the covers flipping up with him, and it just so happened you wrote a letter of divorce. I thought you were rekindling old flames and still had feelings for him. At the time, my husband's heart hurt so much I couldn't even stand up straight. He was extremely agitated, his hot breath filling the covers. But at this point, his eyes suddenly lit up, and he let out a simple, hearty hee-hee laugh. I never expected him to be such utter scum. He isn't even qualified to compete with me for you. Ha ha. I'm relieved. So relieved. I pulled the quilt back over myself. His Majesty and the Empress Dowager will. He shamelessly rubbed up against me. At worst, I'll cut ties with them. People who judge a woman's character over such a trivial matter, valuing reputation more than human life, are not fit to be my mother or my brother. He backed me into the far corner of the bed, my back against the wall, and I pushed him away. We're at my house. You need to restrain yourself. He pulled open his outer robe, revealing the sheer gauze garment underneath. The gauze was sheer and translucent, draped loosely over his body, giving a glimpse of his fair, full, and firm chest as well as his taut, powerful waistline. I deliberately scavenged these clothes from Green Lane. Can you resist? Chogwanlin, I am more capable than those vixens in Green Lane. He grabbed my hand and took the opportunity to scratch my palm. It was as if I had been struck by lightning. I looked at him with a mix of surprise and delight. Oh my, I can't bear it. My sheer clothes tore into shreds, and in the early hours of the morning, I paid the price for my words. I cried and begged for mercy. I can bear it. Mu Linen, I can bear it. But Mu Linen refused to stop no matter what. Panting softly, his scorching breath sprayed against my ear as he whispered like a demon. Endure it if you can. Chogwanlin, this is the punishment for you proposing a divorce. You must accept it. Be good. Before the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet began, Mu Linen said he wanted to take me around the place where he grew up. The head Yunshin by the Emperor's side hurried over and whispered a few words into Mu Linen's ear. Mu Linen said His Majesty had matters to discuss with him, and after arranging for the palace maids to attend to me, he left with them. I just make a feeding gesture, and the fat carp in the pond swim over eagerly. It works every time, and it's great fun. Guanlan, is that you? Such an affectionate summons, but when I turn around, it's Zhao Yunting, this persistent ghost. He's incredibly lucky to recover so quickly after being beaten so badly by Mu Linen. He's good at taking a beating, but it's a real appetite killer. My good mood is completely gone. It really is you, Guanlan. He took a few quick steps toward me, then stopped, frowning, his voice heavier with a questioning tone. Why have you styled your hair in a married woman's bun? I replied without a trace of goodwill. I'm married, shouldn't I wear a married woman's bun? Should I style it for your family's graves instead? Zhao Yunting was stunned for a moment before slowly realizing. You're married? Who could you marry? Guanlan, did you hide what happened between us from him? Zhao Yunting spoke as he moved forward to pull me. But I sidestepped to dodge and took the opportunity to kick him, saying proudly, marry the current 9th prince. Hope reignited in his eyes. The 9th prince? Heh, Guanlan, even when joking, you should pick something believable. Have you become a concubine to some high-ranking official? Rather than choosing him, you might as well choose me. Either way, you'll be doing it. I kicked him right in the mouth. You stupid idiot who can't understand human speech. Mu Linen has already informed the Emperor, Empress, and Empress Dowager about the matter between Zhao Yunting and me. They believe that a woman's chastity is important, but it should absolutely not be scrutinized so nitpickingly, nor should it be considered more important than life itself. The Emperor was even more furious, holding the department responsible for promoting social change accountable, and demanding that they set a deadline to thoroughly eradicate this deep-seated erroneous thinking and bad custom. Zhao Yunting touched his lips, covered in sand and mud, and was completely enraged, wanting to lunge forward and grab me. Hi Guanlan, which wild man exactly indulged you into this bad temper of yours? I was ready to give another kick when an unceremonious voice rang out from the side. Zhao Yunting, what are you doing here? My father is looking for you. Hurry over! Following the sound, it was none other than Princess Jean. She has become much rounder. I heard that a few months ago, she gave birth to a son for Zhao Yunting. Seeing me, she froze, a look of disbelief flashing in her eyes. I casually smoothed the palace robes I was wearing, looked at the commandery princess, and put on a fake smile. He was blind to your worth. You should recognize these palace robes. Since you see me, the princess consort, why do you not kneel? Zhao Yunting's heart gave a heavy thump, as if something very important had completely slipped out of control, and panic spread through his heart. He looked dazed, unable to stop himself from staring straight at me, and spoke somewhat incoherently. Princess consort? How could you possibly become the princess consort? How could the ninth prince, the palace maid I had sent to fetch fish food, returned, neither humble nor arrogant? This is the ninth prince's principal wife. As a county princess and an heir, you are expected to bow and kneel. County Princess Jean was, after all, of imperial blood, and she recognized at a glance that this palace maid served by His Majesty's side. She had no choice but to kneel and pay her respects. I greet the ninth princess. At the same time, she shot a sideways glance at Zhao Yunting, her gaze dark and her tone slightly raised, as if venting her anger. You still won't kneel upon seeing the princess? Do you wish to be punished? Like a marionette with its strings cut, Zhao Yunting, pale-faced and looking shocked and grief-stricken, knelt down heavily. The banquet was in an uproar. Princess Jean came over to offer a toast, but she accidentally twisted her ankle and stumbled, spilling an entire cup of wine over me. Immediately, palace attendants took me away from the feast to change my clothes. I exchanged a glance with Mu Linen, then followed her as we twisted and turned through the passageways and entered a hall illuminated by candlelight. The moment I stepped into the hall, the door was locked from the outside. I immediately walked to the window, only to find that it would not open either. The scent of incense inside the hall was thick and cloying, so strong that it made one's whole body burn with heat and stirred up desire. Guanlan, it's you! It really is you! Zhao Yunting darted out from who knows where, opening his arms to embrace me. I am certainly no delicate young lady. I kicked his groin, pulled his hair, slapped his face, kicked his stomach, and elbowed his back. With old and new grudges combined, I pinned him to the ground and beat him mercilessly, finally smashing 2 vases over his head. Phew! What a relief! The firelight and footsteps drew nearer, and the palace doors were violently forced open. Princess Jean had calculated the exact moment when the incense would burn out while the two were still in the midst of their illicit affair, and had someone guide the Empress there. She intends to ruin my reputation, and take Zhao Yunting down with me. The hall was in shambles. A woman pinned a man who was groaning in pain, her movements unceasing. Scoundrels! The queen flew into a rage. Wrap them up tight and drag them out. Princess Jean blended into the crowd, her face showing not a hint of surprise, only a sinister sneer of gloating as she watched the drama unfold. Oh my! Avert your eyes, princess. You must not look. Mu Linen shouted, covering my eyes. Hearing this voice, the smile on County Lord Jean's face instantly froze, as if she had been struck by a bolt of lightning. Her face turned ashen, cracking apart piece by piece. I am outside. So who is that inside? A cold wind rushed in, carrying rustling whispers, and the woman inside finally slowed her movements. With horror and shock, she slowly turned her head, scanning the crowd before finally fixing her gaze, filled with grief, on Princess Jean. She was born into the household. With this incident having occurred, there was no other solution but to take the blame and go to her death. Princess Jean's face turned from green to white, her limbs went weak and limp, and she staggered back half a step before being caught and supported by the palace attendants. Zhao Yunting had blood streaming down his head, a bruised nose, and a swollen face, with hardly a patch of unbroken skin on his body. Dragged out and thrown onto the ground, he still trembled uncontrollably, murmuring in pain and incessantly crying out that it hurt. Some cast pitying glances at Princess Jean. Princess Jean hurriedly masked the terror in her eyes, replacing it with disbelief and agony. She was so distressed that she could not utter a complete sentence. How could this be? How could this be? How could the heir in Chunying? Chunying's hair was disheveled, and her whole body trembled. Her eyes held a look of desperate dead silence. Yet she still gritted her teeth to splash one last bucket of filth upon Zhao Yunting, hoping to secure a peaceful and promising future for her family. The heir has tried to seduce me many times, and he said that once I bore him a son, he would take me as a concubine. Miss, I am sorry. I could not withstand his threats and temptations. I shall repay your kindness in the next life. As she finished speaking, crimson blood trickled from her lips. She had bitten her tongue to end her own life. The farce had come to an end. Zhao Yunting had gone from a dignified gentleman, unparalleled in both poetry and calligraphy, to a despised piece of trash. His reputation was utterly ruined, and he was stripped of his position as heir. I didn't understand. I merely made her bow to me. Did that really incite such deep resentment in me? Moreover, husband and wife are one. We share in glory and in ruin alike. Why would she do this to Zhao Yunting? Mu Linen wearily leaned against me to draw energy. Because she likes me, but can't have me. At the same time, she wants to destroy Zhao Yunting so her son can inherit the position of heir apparent. If today's scheme succeeds, she kills two birds with one stone. I tugged at his hair. What the hell? When Mu Linen found me, he was nearly out of his mind. Seeing Zhao Yunting writhing in agony on the ground, he raised his long sword, ready to kill. It was I who stopped him. I intended to turn the tables on them. I ordered him to send someone to find the palace maid who had lured me here and throw her in, then told him to help me detoxify. I hadn't inhaled much of the aphrodisiac, whereas Mu Linen was acting like a madman. In the heat of the moment, he said, "Madam, doing this sneakily is so thrilling. I love it." If I hadn't been in a hurry to watch the show, he would have kept going until dawn. Zhao Yunting had been ruthlessly dealt with by Chunying, losing his ability to reproduce, and his legs were left crippled, rendering him unable to stand or walk normally. He had barely managed to keep his life, but Mu Linen wanted him and Princess Jean to die together. The exact same scene played out, only this time the adulterous pair caught were Jean and the male prostitute she had redeemed from the Green Alley. The scene was a spectacle. When the mistress of Yongning Marquis Manor, Zhao Yunting's mother, rushed over, what she saw was the ground littered with shredded gauze and two naked, entangled bodies, and the infant grandson she held in the palm of her hand. Kong Huilan clicked her tongue in pity. This is the pretty boy I told you about. He really knows how to please people. So it turns out he was redeemed by Princess Jean. A plump, good-natured woman nearby spat. Taking a baby to meet a lover, truly shameless. Someone sneered. Maybe she's taking the child to see his real father? After all, who doesn't know that less than 9 months after the princess entered the Marquis Manor, she prematurely gave birth to a fair, chubby baby boy with a loud cry. That child looks sturdy. No matter how I look at it, he doesn't seem premature. It really is. The Marquis Manor followed the trail and tracked down the midwife who had almost been killed by Princess Jean. The midwife testified that the child was born at full term. Princess Jean's scheme was finally exposed. It turned out she had been anxious to find a good father for the child in her womb, and coveting the title of the Marquis' heir, she had petitioned His Majesty to bestow a marriage upon her and Zhao Yunting. Now that the son is born, she simply wants Zhao Yunting to die quickly and make way for her son. Upon learning this, Zhao Yunting spat a mouthful of blood, rolled his eyes, and stiffened his neck, actually dying of sheer rage. Princess Jean was repudiated by the Marquis' household and sent back to the Prince of Xiangyang's manor. The Prince of Xiangyang, detesting her for disgracing the family reputation, strangled her to death with a white silk sash, and the child was cast out to a country estate. With the holidays approaching, the Empress began preparing a family banquet early, and even invited my parents and my elder brother, who had rushed back from the border. During the meal, aside from chatting about family matters, the Emperor also mentioned something. The matter of the Prince of Xiangyang trafficking illegal salt has been thoroughly investigated, and the Marquis of Zhao was also involved. Linen, your contribution to this is significant. Whatever you desire, feel free to ask your imperial brother. Mu Linen replied with a hint of politeness. If I hadn't been investigating the illegal salt trafficking case for your imperial brother, I wouldn't have been pushed into the water, and I wouldn't have met my princess consort. Come to think of it, I should actually thank your imperial brother for this. But then he changed the subject. But since your imperial brother has put it that way, there is indeed something this subject desires. The emperor seemed to know his character well, and smiled helplessly. Speak, I'll indulge you. Mu Linen left his seat and knelt, bowing with such solemnity that it startled me. I thought he was about to make some outrageous demand for the imperial seal. Instead, he spoke softly. Your Majesty, you mentioned last time that you were training a few female shadow guards for Her Majesty the Empress. Could you bestow them upon me? The emperor pointed at him, scolding. You know full well I intended to use these shadow guards to win the Empress's favor. I should never have told you. The Empress smoothed things over, soothing the emperor. Let it be. Let it be. I have no use for it in the palace. It is Guanlon and Linen who travel far and wide. With them accompanying us, we can be more at ease. Mu Linen bowed again with a chuckle. Good sister-in-law. Mu Linen was loved, and she was free. So am I. On the day of our departure, the boat was packed to the brim with all sorts of gifts, local specialties, and food. Kong Huilan also brought me a huge pile of local snacks, and secretly told me that the young male prostitute she had once taken a fancy to had died for love over Princess Jean. It was truly lamentable. We made it back to Rome City just before the new year to celebrate the holidays with grandmother. When I told my grandmother about Mu Linen's identity, she was not at all surprised. She only softly sang a melody I had never heard before. Straying into the heavenly house, I am advised to let the sand in my hand fall. Easter egg. Where did these carp in the pond come from? Mu Linen blinked, waiting for praise. You kept raving about the Empress's fat carp, so I stole dozens of them for you. They only arrived a few days ago. I'm awesome, aren't I?